Hello, welcome back. This is Jason Taylor with Speaking Truth to Power. I just did a piece on the North Carolina Supreme Court, the candidates that were running and which ones I supported and why I supported them, and reminded you that you can certainly go and investigate them yourselves. Most of them anyhow. You can find some of the opinions they've written and see what the dissent has written, meaning the judges who disagreed with them or justices that disagreed with them, and kind of get your own sense about those justices. But I gave you mine, right? And I gave you also what a lot of the lawyers in the state who represent individuals like I do, who represent people like you, what they think as well. And I mentioned, the Supreme Court sits as one body and makes decisions, and that's the highest court in this state for state issues. If you're dealing with a United States constitutional issue, then it would go to the Supreme Court of the United States, not North Carolina. But for our state issues, they're the highest court. They sit as a group. There's 7 of them. The Court of Appeals, the group I'm about to talk about next, there's 15 of them, and they sit in groups of 3 to hear cases in what we refer to as en banc. And I was trying to express how important this is, and I was going to give you an example last time, and I forgot. So here, you're going to get it now, right? And this is a Supreme Court example, but the Court of Appeals makes a decision first, and it goes on, and the Supreme Court may agree or disagree. But when we get to the appellate courts, interpreting our laws is critical. And there was a case in the NCAJ website thing they have about voting for judges, draws on the same example, but it has to do with the interpretation of a law where some folks in the eastern part of the state, their land was in front of where they decided the state was going to build a highway, right? And so the state was taking their land, and there was an issue as to how you value that land, okay? And the Supreme Court took that case up and made a decision on this law that needed to be kind of interpreted and understood, because a lot of times when our legislators write laws, unfortunately, most of them aren't lawyers, so they're not really very practiced at writing laws, and you can't account for all the situations and all the different ways people will look at things. And so a law is written, and then all of a sudden an event happens, and you've got to apply that law to those facts, and maybe it's not real clear how it applies in those set of facts. And that's what our courts try to do, is interpret the law, make sure it's constitutional, and apply it appropriately, meaning how our legislators meant it to be applied. Whether they were correct in what they were doing or not is another story. But so that case in the eastern part of the state impacted every citizen in North Carolina when it comes to the taking of their land by the government, which could happen anytime they wanted to put a road or something else through, right? So it impacts all of us, and having good people making good decisions is key. Now, I went through, there was 3 seats coming up for the Supreme Court, seat 1, seat 2, and seat 4. I went through the candidates. I gave you those who I support and who NCAJ supports. And if I was a criminal defendant with the Court of Appeals hearing my case, or an injured worker, or somebody injured by a state, by a county, by a city, or a big business, I told you I would hope that either that Sherry Beasley was there, Lucy Inman, and Mark Davis as seats 1, 2, and 4. If they were hearing my case, I would know that I had smart minds who actually cared about citizens hearing those cases. The Court of Appeals has seat 4, seat 5, seat 6, seat 7, and seat 13 that are up for people running for those seats in this upcoming election. Seat 4, Patricia Shields and April Wood are both running. Ms. Shields has been a law clerk at the North Carolina Court of Appeals. She's been in litigation at the Bailey Dixon firm, the Troutman Sanders firm, and Hedrick Gardner firm, a firm of which I've tried numerous cases against. And she's also a law school faculty teaching trial advocacy. April Wood has been a district court judge. While district court judges are critically important and they hear small civil matters and traffic and some small criminal matters, and of course domestic matters, they don't write appeals, and the preparation that goes into a trial, meaning the defense or the plaintiff side, and particularly when you deal with other courts like Superior Court and the appellate courts, I think the sheer experience of Patricia Shields with the firms she's been with, the types of laws that she's been handling, is much more prepared to handle the appellate court what you need. The tools you have in your toolbox, I think, have been finally developed with her background, and I will support Patricia Shields as having exceptional qualifications and experience relative to the two parties in this race. I'm sure Ms. Wood is a good district court judge, but I have not seen enough, and nor do I think that is enough to qualify one for the Supreme Court of North Carolina. In the seat 5, Laura Cubbage and Will Gore are both running for that seat. Laura Cubbage has been a district court judge like Ms. Wood has. She's also been a superior court judge. She's also been assistant attorney general. To me, that's a good deal of experience. It's not just that she's actually worked as the trial lawyer, while I'm sure Ms. Wood did that as well in her race. Ms. Cubbage, with also having superior court judge experience, which travels to different counties, here's larger cases and is typically more complex matters. Versus Will Gore, who's been in the National Guard. He's been a judge advocate general, and he's been a district attorney. Mr. Gore has some experience, but between Mr. Gore and Ms. Cubbage, to me, Ms. Cubbage's experience and what I understand about her reputation from people who know her, she's clearly the one I will vote for. I will say, too, I've communicated with lawyers all over the state about these various judges and gotten feedback, and that also impacts my feelings when I talk to people who do what I do and been in front of judges and have feedback. It's important. And what I do is represent people like you. So when I talk to others, I'm talking to people who help you. All right. Seat 6 is Chris Dillon and Grace Stairs are running. Chris Dillon has been on the Court of Appeals since 2012. He's done a fine job. He's been a good, fair judge. Grace Stairs, I understand, he's a practicing lawyer, or has been. He's been a clerk, and he's been a law professor. He may be a good guy and done well, and I will give him all of those credits. Chris Dillon has been there. He's been doing it for 8 years. He's been doing a very good job, and there is no reason for, in my opinion, to gamble on one I don't know when I know one has been doing it well. If you've been doing your job and doing it well, you ought to stay there. And so I will vote for Chris Dillon for seat 6. Seat 7 has been Reuben Young and Jeff Carpenter. Reuben Young has been there since 2019, so he's been there for 1 year. He's been a good judge. And he had been previously an appointed Superior Court judge from 2012 to 2017, appointed by the governor. And so he is a fine judge, and if you vote for Reuben Young, you've done nothing wrong. Jeff Carpenter is a Superior Court judge who I have been in front of. He has also been a law enforcement officer. He has also been a practicing lawyer representing criminal defendants and personal injury people, folks like you, in front of the court. And I think having been in front of him, knowing kind of his depth of knowledge, his skill base, how he's handled himself on the bench, I'm going to vote for Jeff Carpenter. I think you, in seat 7, you have 2 good judges. You have Justice Young, who has been fine, and Judge Jeff Carpenter, who, in my opinion, is Court of Appeals material, and I'll vote to see him get there. I will miss him at the trial court level, but I will be pleased, particularly if I was an individual with a case up at the appellate courts, to know I had a good mind there doing the right thing. The next race is seat 13. Chris Brook and Jefferson Griffin are both running for that. NCAJ, again, the North Carolina Advocates for Justice, which is over 2,000 lawyers, more like 2,500, somewhere in there, lawyers who do what I do, or in the sense that they represent people. They may be doing it in a criminal matter, they may be doing it in domestic matters, they may be doing it in workers' comp, personal injury, or whatnot, but they represent folks like you. And there is everybody has said good things about both of these candidates, Jefferson Griffin and Chris Brook. Chris Brook has been at the Court of Appeals for 1 year. I think he's done a fine job. I don't know anything about Jefferson Griffin other than to say that those who do know him think well of him, and I think he is gosh, I've forgotten now, but I think he's a district court judge. In any case, I'm going to vote for Chris Brook, but you all certainly can't go wrong with either Chris Brook or Jefferson Griffin. I'll take the experience that I know versus that I don't. But I hope this helps. And like I said, for a lot of these folks, you can go and you can do your own research on all of them. But in terms of writing judicial opinions, there's a handful of these folks, most of them, that you can go and find cases that they've decided and come up with your own informed opinion. To the extent you don't have time, you trust my thoughts and maybe those of the North Carolina Advocates for Justice. I hope this helps you. You go to when you go to vote, you know something, you have something, and you don't just look at a slate of justices and ignore it. I hope you realize how important it is, and I hope you either take my advice or find your own and mark the appropriate box. Thanks. Take care.